Hey guys, we're going live on the spot in the field. So I thought I'd give a little bit of a spot presentation about volcanic and intrusive extrusive volcanism and its effect on placer gold and gold formations. So this is an area in Thousand Oaks. It's in between Simi and Thousand Oaks. It has a natural property of having some volcanic cliffs that have long eroded. You can see the pattern down below where we have these alluvial fans coming down from these eroded rocks. In many cases, such as at Table Mountains up in the Sonora area along Route 49, you'll see something like this where a lava flow will have capped off an old river. It makes for really interesting prospecting, and many rich gold prospectors come from it. So it's something to keep in mind when you see a pattern like this, one of these gorgeous mountain structures. I'm going to probably blow this thing out with the sunshine. So anyway, if you see one of these kinds of formations, you start looking around and seeing whether or not there's any gold been found in the area. And if so, it's not unusual to find a gold adit underneath. So an adit would be something you'd see up underneath one of these things, and it gives you kind of an idea of what you might be involved with, because it's very hard rock on top and soft, often soft soils. Sometimes can be hardened, calcareous, old river placer underneath it. And that makes for some interesting prospecting. An adit in there could be quite lucrative, but it can also be quite dangerous. And there are a lot of people who lost their lives and things like that. But it is an interesting prospect. This one is not in a gold-bearing zone, so it just has the appearance of the volcanism and the beauty of the area. I just wanted to show you quickly one of those kinds of situations where you could see this kind of formation and say, hey, you know, what would I do up in this area along in here with a metal detector, for example? Because all of this ancient volcano has eroded down into this plain behind me, out over this way toward the housing tracks on the other side. It's a gorgeous day today, fantastical. So it's one of those things where you just have to kind of look around you, and sometimes you can see right in front of your eyes some of the beauty that goes along with the potential for gold. Like I said before, I'm not so sure about this area. I tried down toward Mount Boney at one point and didn't even find a single color. That doesn't mean there isn't something there, but it's not something that would attract me to try too much longer. National Park Service, among other things. But it is interesting to try this kind of area and look and see what you can find. I enjoy just hiking in these kind of zones, looking for the kinds of volcanic formations that are there, as well as some of the human-formed formations that you can see in the distance there. It's pretty funny. You know, for many years the tracks were coming out this way, and then they finally got wise to it and turned this into an open space, which was actually a very good move on the part of Thousand Oaks, given this is only about 20 miles north of Los Angeles. It does give you an opportunity to see how much beauty they preserved, but at the same time, it sure is limiting in terms of the things you can do. You can mountain bike here, and you can hike, and you can walk your dog if you take your poopy bag, but you can't do much else. So, you know, that's Prospector Jess's input. It is one of those cool things, though, to see that much stuff. There is a fair amount of wind today, so I'm probably blowing out my microphone, but you get the idea. I just thought it would be a fun little trip here. The flowers are unbelievable today, so I'm really enjoying there's these mustard plants down below. Those are pretty typical for this time of year, but up above there, those are all sunflowers. They're kind of unusual around here. They pop out when there's been enough rain, and there has been enough rain. It's gorgeous. So I'm enjoying this trek. It's a lot of fun. You know, it's one of those things where you just want to look around at the geology around you and take a look. You know, take a look close up at those cliffs. You see the holes and the pockmarks. Those are great for foxes' dens and things like that. But they're also the kind of thing you want to keep your eye open for. If you look closely, like I'm going to try to zoom in here a little bit, probably mess up the picture. But let's see if I can do it. So right over in there in the center of the screen, you can kind of make out some pockmarks and holes. Those are the size of pretty sizable boulders and chunks that have coming out. It's not clear to me. In fact, you can see one of them right there that has fallen down and landed in the middle of the screen. That thing's bigger than a house. So it's pretty impressive, the kind of erosion that's gone on, but also the kind of forces it takes to break apart that kind of material. You know, that gives you an idea of what happens in an area that's covered with something like that. It's going to last for centuries, millennia, and it takes a lot to erode it. And that's something worth noting in your book when you go out to prospect. These alluvial plains, that's this base down here, that slope is ground up version of what's above it. And so what happens is that's likely to be the place you're going to find the most placer gold. It's kind of right near the... Well, that was road. My broadcast got interrupted by a data interrupt. Wants to know if I want to spend more money. Of course I do. You guys are worth it. But isn't that gorgeous? CJ, I am in Southern California in a community called Newberry Park on the north edge of Thousand Oaks. This area is called Wildwood Regional Park. You can look it up. There's a whole bunch of Google Maps and things like that, and even a wiki page on it. It's a pretty fantastic area. There's 2 waterfalls in here right now. I was going to go down to them, but it's a little late. I wouldn't make it before sundown. 2 waterfalls, and they're both going full tilt right now because of all this rain, which is really cool. They do run kind of almost year-round around here because they are fed by springs from underground. But in the last few years, they've those water tables have dropped so much because of the drought that they had kind of dried up. But apparently they're back, so that's kind of neat. Lots of fun. Hey, Gwen, Alabama, good to see you. And John is here from Colorado. Charles is back, and he can still hear you. Okay, good. So you can hear me while the video dropped out. That's kind of typical. Yeah, I had set my phone threshold for fear that I was going to run out of data, but I set it too low. Oops, my bad. CJ says I have to get out there and check. You sure do. Although this is nothing compared to, like I said, Table Mountain and the Sonora area, gorgeous, and it's a similar kind of structure up above Jamestown, Columbia area. In between Jamestown and Columbia is this lava flow that capped off a bunch of gold in that lip right, see where that light and dark meet? It would be equivalent to being under that. That's not what's here. This is a different formation. But up there, you look at that area, you'll find all kinds of adits going horizontally right under that lip, because right at the top of that was a bunch of ancient placer deposits that were capped off with a lava flow, tens of thousands of years ago, so well before the gold rush. Show us some gold from Buckrow Beach, Virginia. Okay, well, we'll have to look at that. Kate is here from Texas. Gage is here. I'm sorry, you're wrong. My eyes are not doing too well between the dialing up of all that sunlight and the tiny screen being faint. Bad case of old fart syndrome, Prospector Jess. So anyway, I thought I'd just kind of touch on some more of this. You can see this is that Santa Monica mountain range. I popped up a little higher here. I'm going to pan around and show you what we're looking at. So this is the northern lip here, and over there is Santa Susana Pass on that far side, and that's where that big fire went through last year. The what was the thing called? Anyway, and then down that way is due south or straight ahead is Hollywood. Santa Monica Mountains, and then you can see the mountain ranges over toward Las Virgenes and then Caneo, and then that's south of Newberry Park. That's Mount Boney right there. That's that area we saw. I've had 3 videos with that. One, I was up close to it last couple weeks ago, and then about a month ago I was out on that direction watching a rainstorm dump snow, hail, and sleet on top of Mount Boney and flood this whole area out, which was nothing compared to what happened on Route 49 region. Boy, they got clobbered in that same storm. Hey, Vermont, welcome. The campfire was up in the area around in the Sierra Nevada. This was a different fire. It was called I want to say Wildwood, but that's where I am now. So we'll get to it. The Thomas fire was back that direction. The hill fire is actually right behind where I am. In fact, over in that area where the waterfalls are, you can't see it behind that mountain. That's Caneo Mountain over there. But over that direction is where the waterfall is, and that's also the canyon that hill fire started in. It was going to converge with the other fire right on top of Mount Boney, but they stopped it with about 5 DC-10s. It was really pretty dicey for a while there. They thought they had it out, and then all of a sudden it just took off. This is a whole bunch of really expensive homes over here. Hollywood, you know, celebrities, and people who own thoroughbreds, that kind of stuff. Pretty expensive stuff in Hidden Valley. Give me some good idea already. Thanks. Good, Tom. So that's the kind of idea. Like I said, you know, this would be a great place to bring a detector out on this plain here and just kind of work it over because it's so flat. The one problem you run into is notice all the brush. It's a good 3 to 4 feet thick out there, and that's probably only a year worth of growth because this had a fire through here too. So what you end up with is rattlesnake town. You got to watch and wear good boots and some thick, you know, pants. Get yourself some good Levi's and tie them up so you don't get any snakes in your ankles. But it is a great kind of territory to go try out. The problem with this area is there's so many regulations. It's kind of sad, but it's also not as popular with prospecting because it's a different kind of volcanism and much older. It doesn't have as much of the mafic material. It's more andesitic. In fact, these were pretty explosive volcanoes when they were going on. That'd make a heck of a mess out of Los Angeles, wouldn't it? So I thought we'd kind of go up the road here a little bit, take a look at some of the wildlife that we're looking at. It is impressive to see just what nature has out here. And that's really true of gold prospecting. I get out, you know, probably half of the time just simply to go fishing or find stuff that's out here just to see things and take photographs and video. The other half of the time I'm out looking for rocks and nuggets, you know, so 50-50. That way I'm always satisfied. You want to be doing the same kind of thing, you know, pick up a few hobbies along the way, you know, like collecting rocks until your, you know, backpack is too full, and maybe some photography on the side. That always helps. The good thing about photography is you want to be able to kind of get in and zoom in on saying, you know, something and get a nice sharp picture that kind of tells the story in itself. This one's not zooming in real well. Let me try. But you get the idea. This is using a phone camera, which is kind of marginal, but it is kind of fun. And it is fun to hike too. And that's all part of the picture. The trick is carry water. You know, be ready for water. Be ready with a protein bar or two, and don't forget your trusty hat because you know, when the sun gets beaten down on you, it can get pretty beastly. That's really true in California or Arizona or Nevada, but it can be true anywhere. You know, especially you get a high altitude, you kind of forget that it's dry and the sun's out, and you get sunburned, and next thing you know, you're going hypothermic because the temperature dropped, that kind of stuff. So be prepared and watch for snakes, watch for scorpions sometimes. That's a reality of doing this stuff, but that shouldn't stop you. That's part of the adventure. You want to find that stuff and overcome it. Become the great adventurer who looks up and says, I know what that is, and I know where to find gold in it, because that's part of the deal. Like I said, these things were, you know, rhyolite and andesite, which is on the other end from mafic, and so they tended to be not so, as volcanoes go, they were not so friendly. More like the kind of thing you saw happen with Mount St. Helens or could happen with Mount Rainier. You know, it becomes explosive when they go because they actually form kind of a plug, and when that plug decides to dislodge, boom, out goes a bunch of gases, and those gases can flatten things for miles. Tens of miles, like an H-bomb. So you just want to be kind of aware of the potential of something like this and realize that, you know, not only did this kind of volcanic activity affect this area, but it affected this whole region. The whole Volcano Valley is loaded with this history that goes back, like I said, millennia. And you wouldn't even know it from all the gorgeous, you know, shrubbery and everything else that grows around here. But when you start looking at the rocks, you go, this is kind of an interesting thing here. You know, we lived up in an area actually right over here, and behind that butte that you see ahead of me. And basically in that area back behind, between that and Mount Boney, which is the mountain behind it, it's all volcanic rock. So when we had that 1994 earthquake, I don't know whether you recall that, the San Fernando earthquake that knocked everybody for a loop. It was actually 2 earthquakes back to back within a minute of each other. And that caused billions and billions of dollars in damage in the San Fernando and Los Angeles area. That earthquake made a mess. They had red tag buildings out here and further out, even as far as Oxnard. The difference is that we were sitting on bedrock, so when we got hit with that earthquake, the house didn't shudder like houses. We heard all kinds of reports of people having their houses jump up and down like they were on an ocean. Ours didn't do that. It rang. You could hear this crunch, pop, and then a ding sound, and I realized because of my geology background with that mountain, that we had put that house, we'd asked, kind of look for houses up toward that mountain because it's on bedrock. And bedrock and earthquakes is a much better deal than being on the alluvial soil like we're on right here, or worse out in the Oxnard Plain where it's about 10 miles of alluvium. That turns to jello. Bedrock, it just rings. The sonic waves travel through it and go out the other side. So you actually could hear the earthquake hit one side of the house and crack, go through the other side, through the foundation. Really strange and scary sound, but nowhere near the damage. We had a few cracks in some of the walls outside, and that was it. But we had people down literally in this area I am right now, which is only about 4 miles away, red tagged all up and down some of the blocks just because of the soil they mounted the houses on. That's the true thing about geology. You start seeing patterns and you go, wow, that would affect gold. How? Because that kind of soil would get loosened up and the rocks themselves would stay put, but they might fracture a bit. If it's a big enough quake, it might actually allow a little bit of that volcanic seepage to come through if it's still active. If the magma chamber down below were still active, which it's not here, but up in the Sierras they are. And so especially when you go over toward Mammoth Mountain on that side of the Sierras, or you go toward the northern edge by Lassen, or even up toward the Klamath Basin area, you'll find there's active volcanoes buried in there, and there are some chambers that are kind of rumbling around right now like they got an upset stomach. So you want to keep your eyes open for that kind of stuff. I just thought we might take a field trip, a little geology, a little background. Let's see, let me go through your comments and see if there's some stuff relevant. So when you are in Arizona, let me know. Meet with you, yeah. Too cool, would love to learn from you. Let's see, Lanka says, have been in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan prospecting. No, but go look at the video I did on the Upper Peninsula and the Lower Peninsula and some stuff in there, Wisconsin and Minnesota. There's a whole series of those states here on Hunting for Gold page on Facebook and over on YouTube on my Prospector Jess channel. Subscribe and you'll get notified, but go subscribe and go look up is there gold in Michigan? You'll find a video I posted a little while ago, and you'll find a gold in Wisconsin and a gold in Minnesota. They're all connected, and I talked at great length about what's going on in Michigan that makes it kind of unique and where the gold is and where it isn't. But in the Lower Peninsula, I also had some people tell me they have found serious gold down there. It's just, it's not in the USGS maps. So there you go. And that's the thing about the whole story is, hey, yes, Vermont's worth looking for gold. Go look up the Vermont gold in video. But there's also places that aren't in those maps that are also capable of holding gold, especially fine gold. You can find it almost anywhere. Okay, so take a look and go check them out. Yep, so that's kind of where we are for right now. I just thought I'd check in with you guys and let you know what I'm up to. Good prospecting? Prospector Jess, Field Commander. And prospecting and geology. We're looking at rocks, volcanism, and gold, and what's going on with these mountains behind me. So that's it for today. I just wanted to check in and let you have another video, and we're going to get off the air and find out if we can... you know what's surprising here? I'll tell you something funny. I have 5 bars of 4G where I'm standing. I mean, this has got to be the epicenter. Now, it could be that it's related to the fact that this used to be the headquarters for what used to be GTE and became Verizon. So you think maybe they thought about cell phones? I know they thought about fiber optics because this area is just crisscrossed with some of the best bandwidth there is. I had to leave it to go down into Oxnard. That's where I am now. But anyway, you can see it's funny because you know, I've gone all over the place, and some of the places I get, there's towers, I can see them, they're just down the block, but because of the interference patterns, you get, you know, 2 bars at best, and that makes a terrible video. So I'm getting really good video here, I hope. The one interruption was actually my phone. It shut down because it said I was using too much data bandwidth. So what can I say? Okay, so I will say goodnight on this one. Prospector Jess over and out, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for prospecting with me. Good prospecting.